sway bars can help increase your truck's performance by reducing body roll when cornering. So let's take a look at what's involved in installing sway bars in our truck. So the sway bars from Traxxas come as a set with two different types of sway bars for the front and the rears. The black ones, this is the black front and black rear, and the silver front, silver rear. The black ones are stiffer than the silver ones, so if you want a stiffer response, use the black ones. If you want a softer response, use the silver ones. They also come with some linkages. The shorter linkages are for the front sway bars, while the longer linkages are for the rear sway bars. There are also 4 screws to hold the sway bars onto the chassis or rear bumper. Okay, so on the truck, the sway bars are going to go right up here for the fronts. They actually go in this orientation over the shock tower here, and then we have the linkages on the ends here which go right to the A-arms. Likewise, for the rears, the sway bars go from the back in and fit onto a little groove on the rear bumper. The 2 screws will go right here to hold it to the rear bumper, while the linkages will tie it from here to the A-arm. Now, there's a little bit of a setup with installing the linkages onto the sway bars before we can finally install them onto our trucks. Let's go ahead. I'm going to be installing the softer sway bars here. So what I have is the front sway bar and the front linkages. What you're going to do is slide the hollow ball end of the front linkage onto the sway bar arm here. And then just tighten the set screw. Now the linkages for the front are a little shorter than the linkages for the rears, and they go on the same way for both, with the end with the set screw fitting onto the sway bar first. For a start, I'm just installing these linkages about 5 millimeters from the ends. What you'll be able to do is, once you have the sway bars installed, you can actually adjust the set screw and move the linkage back and forth on the sway bar arm here to adjust the response you get from the sway bars. Okay. Now for the rears, install them in the same manner with the longer linkages for the rears. This time I'm going to line the end of the hollow ball here almost flush with the end of the sway bar, and just tighten the set screw. Again, you always have the option to adjust where the set screw is placed or that linkage is placed on the sway bar, and that will affect the performance of the bars. Okay, so since we have the rears here, let's go ahead and install those first. So with the linkages installed on the sway bar, they're going to go this way on our truck. So let's just feed the linkage arms through from the back here, in between our shock and our shock tower. Let's grab a couple of the screws to hold it in place on the bumper. And just screw it in place. Now, what you're going to want to do is tighten the screws enough so that you don't have the sway bars sliding back and forth this way along the axis of your drivetrain. But be loose enough so that they can pivot up and down, as you can see here, so that they can move up and down. Okay, so now with the sway bars installed in the back here, let's flip the truck over. And go ahead, grab your hex driver. And now it's just a matter of installing the linkage into the slot closest to the body on the A-arm here. Do the same to the other side. Now what you can do with these sway bars is install them and tune them to the specifics of the surfaces that you're running on, or to correct oversteer or understeer. So now let's move to the front. The front sway bars are installed from the inside the chassis and move forwards having the sway bar be positioned in between the shock tower and the shock. Very similar steps to the rears. 2 screws on the chassis this time will hold the sway bar in place. Again, you don't want to over tighten these screws, just enough pressure to hold the sway bar in place while allowing it to still pivot, like so. And again, the linkage that goes down to the A-arm gets installed in the first slot closest to the chassis. And just tighten the screws to hold them in place. So for low traction surfaces, you're going to want to use the silver sway bars to give you a softer response. while for a high traction surface, you're going to want the stiffer sway bars to stiffen the response.